All of the people involved in this collusion hoax, the Democrats, the FBI, Andrew McCabe, Jim Comey, John Brennan, the Obama administration, and others understood from the start this case was a hoax. It was a hoax because it was only based in a dossier that was fake, a dossier that was relitigated old information from a 2007 Glenn Simpson Wall Street Journal article. It was basically a movie script where they just wrote in Donald Trump's name. They needed this dossier to cover their tracks for their old spying on Mike Flynn and others. They needed the dossier basically to reverse engineer a crime that never happened. Why would you want to reverse engineer a crime that never happened? Why would you want to make pretend, fabricate a bank robbery that didn't happen? Because you want to investigate people for bank robbery. Well, there's no bank robbery. Exactly. Well, why would you want to investigate them? Because you're going to ruin their lives and you're going to ruin their presidency and you're going to create an endless set of press leaks making that person look bad. That's why. Hey, Paula Bongino is being investigated for bank robbery. She is. Was there a bank rob? No, but it doesn't matter. She's being investigated. That's the point. They had to reverse engineer a crime. To reverse engineer a crime, they had to produce evidence of a crime. The problem is there was no crime and there was no evidence. So all they had was this dossier. Bob Mueller knows this. He knows this when he is appointed in May of 2017. How does he know this? He knows this because his chief investigator, the person he picks as his lieutenant in this, Andrew Weissman, has already been briefed on the dossier in 2016 and the political origins of it. He knows this is a Hillary Clinton document. Weissman has been briefed by Bruce Orr. He knows the document's crap. And keep in mind, the dossier is the only evidence they have of a crime that never happened. So instead of making this case go away immediately, what Mueller should have done, what does he do? He should give this speech immediately to the American people. You've all been hoaxed. You've all been lied to. There is, in fact, no crime. This dossier is a garbage document. I've been charged with investigating Russian collusion in the election. It didn't happen. Thank you, folks. Have a nice day. That would have been the patriotic thing to do and the right thing to do. That's not what Mueller does. Mueller keeps the case open for 675 days. But how can he keep a case open for 675 days investigating a crime that didn't happen when he knows immediately that crime didn't happen? The answer: create a new crime. And the new crime is obstruction. Put up the piece about the scope memo, if you don't mind, the part where we highlight the Carter Page stuff. This is fascinating. So I had told you in the beginning I was going to address the scope memo. Devin Nunes, who's been just a terrific stalwart supporter of getting to the bottom of this, Republican Congressman from California, was on Fox last night and brought up an interesting footnote on page 11. Here it is. Remember I told you about the scope memo? So Bob Mueller's hired in May of 2017, and he's given a memo on what he needs to do: investigate Russian collusion in the election. August 2nd, just months later, he's given a revised scope memo and new responsibilities. And look at this. On page 11 of the Mueller report, he gives up what's in the scope memo. This is beautiful. Quote, it then confirmed that the special counsel not has been, had been authorized since his appointment to investigate allegations that three Trump campaign officials, Carter Page, Paul Manafort, and George Papadopoulos, quote, committed a crime or crimes by colluding with Russian government officials with respect to the Russian government's efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election. If you're listening to that right now, you're probably thinking, okay, where are you going with this? Read that thing carefully. Page 11, it's right at the bottom. Mueller gets a revised scope memo on what he's supposed to do a few months later. Keep in mind now, Mueller knows the whole time this dossier is a hoax. He's not stupid. His lieutenant knows it's a hoax. He's already been briefed on the hoax, right? It says in this Mueller report that he'd been given instructions from the beginning to go and investigate collusion with Carter Page, Papadopoulos, and Manafort. Ladies and gentlemen, where are those allegations of Russian collusion? They are only in the dossier. Why is Mueller writing that in the report? Think this through. Mueller's putting that in his report that he had been given from the start the charge to investigate Carter Page. Remember, that's only in the dossier, the Page stuff, these criminal allegations. He's doing it to cover his own butt. He understands here that he was investigating a hoax the whole time. He just doesn't like Trump and he wants to keep the investigation going the whole time, but he wants to cover his own butt. And he wants to make sure everybody knows that his instructions from the start were to investigate this dossier, that he was told to do it. Ah, you missed that, didn't you? This is fascinating. Instead of wrapping it up, though, instead of going out in front of the public and saying, "Hey, I've been charged with investigating the dossier," you maybe if you're missing, Paula, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if they're missing the connection here. What I'm telling you is they're writing on that page 11 about how, hey, I this is Mueller. I've been charged with investigating criminal collusion with Carter Page. Ladies and gentlemen, where is that charge? It's only in one place only. It's only in the dossier. He's winking and nodding at you that, hey, just so you know, in case this comes down later, that I was investigating a hoax document the whole time. I was told to do this. You get it? This is slick. This report is slick. Mueller hates Trump. He wants to provide enough ammunition with these long-winded, ridiculous stories about Russian connections that in one sentence at the end he writes don't exist. He wants to give that information to the Democrats because he knows they'll play political games with it, which they started already. They're going to talk about the Democrats is these Russian connections, which they're already doing, despite the fact. Okay, thank you. Despite the fact that none of them led to any criminal behavior at all. None of them. So he lays out this roadmap. He talks about it endlessly. He needed time to gather all this information, but if he would have lost out on that time if he would have come out and done the right thing immediately and said this was a hoax document. I don't know if I explained that well. I'm going to try this a different way. Mueller doesn't like Trump. He needs to provide the Democrats with political ammunition and the media to destroy the Trump presidency. The problem is the only ammunition he's been chartered to go with is the Carter Page stuff or the dossier he knows is false. He has to fabricate another crime. So what does he do? He goes back in the revised scope memo and he works on an obstruction charge. He creates an obstruction charge to keep the investigation open as long as possible, to gather all the material in this report to give to the Democrats. This is really, really important stuff. But he needed the time to do it. So he uses the obstruction thing. But he doesn't want to leave himself open to criticism later. So he makes sure to put in the report that he's been given from the start instructions to investigate this dossier because he knows the dossier in the end is going to be a hoax. So he wants everybody to know that although he was investigating obstruction the whole time, the reason he started wasn't my fault. I was told to investigate the dossier. I bet you missed that on page 11. I'll be candid with you folks. I missed it a little bit too. When Nunes hit it last night, I went back and read it again. And I'm like, yes, now I get it. Look, it's right there, up there on the screen. Look, I can't emphasize this line enough. It then confirmed that the special counsel, Mueller, had been authorized since his appointment to investigate allegations. These are only in the dossier, folks, that three campaign officials, Page, Manafort, and Papadopoulos, colluded with the Russians, basically. That is only in the dossier. This is the biggest butt covering operation I have ever seen in my life. Now, he could have, again, done the right thing and wrapped it up immediately and said, folks, but he doesn't because he wants to protect the DOJ, protect his buddy Comey, protect the reputation of the FBI, and protect his buddy Rosenstein a bit too, who appointed him. So he keeps this investigation open by inventing another crime, obstruction of justice for a crime that was never committed. It's really unbelievable what happened here. It's really phenomenal. One other